Hi everyone, my name is Neil. I'm the Senior Trainer at CreativeHUT. We're a STEAM education resource and training provider who work with lots of fantastic edtech companies. And in this session, I'm going to be introducing you fully to the brilliant robotics resource called Robo Wunderkind, which is ideal for both primary and secondary computing, but lots of other cross-curricular opportunities as well. I'm going to demonstrate how you can start working with Robo Wunderkind with very little or no experience and talk through the concepts behind it, the support available to you to use it in the classroom, of course the hardware and software that you've got to work with, and show you some examples of it actually in action. Before we get into all of that, I think it's always important to reflect on some of the key questions as part of any conversations that we have with teachers or educators when they're considering using resources like Robo Wunderkind. And some of the most common that we discuss are absolutely those that you see on the screen here now. So with this first question here, do you and your colleagues or fellow teachers at the school have experience of robotics or coding? And I think it's fair to say that the answers can be mixed. While some teachers are definitely constantly growing their experience of using this kind of technology, especially since the introduction of the new computing curriculum back in 2013. There's others that have maybe not had the opportunity to get hands-on with all of this, and training opportunities for it have maybe been limited. So in relation to this second question, some educators still might not immediately be comfortable and confident in teaching these topics of computing or robotics with the current experience they have. And some of the biggest challenges raised to us being those of that initial fear factor of using these types of kits, again, teaching those topics of computing and robotics. And of course, even just finding the time to become comfortable with them, to prepare lessons and activities and become confident in working with them, with the actual children in the classroom or at home. So the great thing about Robo Wunderkind is that it's a fully comprehensive resource to help schools and teachers to overcome all of these challenges and problems. As you'll see for yourself during the webinar, teachers have all the support they need to start using this in the classroom straight away with little or no experience. It's extremely easy to use, and Robo Wunderkind have been brilliant in preparing all of the lesson and curriculum materials to help you in implementing it. Again, you'll get to see this for yourselves as we progress through the webinar. Okay. What we also want to stress that is, on top of this being perfect for helping to deliver the different areas of the curriculum in terms of computing, but also into to language, to maths, to art. Again, as you'll see, one of the main aims of this resource is, of course, to also help generally prepare our pupils for the future. And that means to help them develop the skills that are going to enable them to solve whatever challenges are put in front of them in their future chosen careers. It's definitely true that a lot of the jobs that our pupils will be going into and carrying out don't actually yet exist. With the technology and the needs of the world ever changing, there's going to be so many jobs that don't yet exist. We don't know exactly what problems our pupils are going to have put in front of them. So we just need to be able to help them develop those 21st century learning skills of problem solving, creativity, collaboration, and communication to again be able to solve whatever challenges are put in front of them. And that's again what Robo Wunderkind is absolutely ideal for. Okay, so we will now start to look at the Robo Wunderkind sets themselves and talk you through what exactly you've got to work with in the classroom or at home. And there's basically three main elements: the robotics hardware blocks themselves to create lots of different types of robots, intuitive programming apps to control the robots in different ways at different level of complexity. We'll see those in more detail shortly. And of course, those all-important teacher materials to help you successfully use all of this in the classroom. So I'll be introducing you to all of this. But first of all, let's take a look at the robotics hardware, the robotics block. So it's an easily adaptable system, simple building blocks which you can take apart and put back together again to create lots of different types of robots. And those hardware robotics blocks blocks are color-coded into different types, again, to help the ease of use and understanding what they're all for. They, of course, provide a really great hands-on learning experience and hands-on exploration of the subject matter that the lessons are focusing on. And there's a great one to point out as well is that they are fully Lego compatible, which means you can use any Lego that you've got available to you to expand the building experience and come up with even more varied solutions in terms of the robots that they're building. So it's great for that to be worked with as well. But let's take a close look at this. So I'm going to switch back to the video view so you can see me. Hello. I'm going to put this down towards the actual blocks themselves. Let's make this view a little bit bigger for you. And there we go. So you can see all these different robotics blocks that you've got to work with. So I'll talk through these one by one. First of all, you've got the main orange block here. So this is the main body of your robot, which you can connect all the other hardware modules to. This is, of course, what you send your program or code to. It's via Bluetooth. You can always connect to this via Bluetooth to send that code and control it what to do. You've also got things like a speaker on this, so you can control and use sound as an output. Simple charging point to charge it up. There's, of course, a rechargeable battery built into that. Status indicator lights, and you've got the simple switch here to turn it on and off. So that's the orange main block. We've then got motor blocks, which are blue. So our motor blocks, first of all, we've got the light blue one here, which is our servo motor. So we can control a servo motor. We've then got two DC motors, which are these two dark blue ones here. Then we're going on to the red block, which are basically our sensor input hardware blocks. You've got the ultrasonic sensor here, which can measure and react to distance in front of it. And we've also got our button input sensor there as well. We've also got the yellow blocks, which are used as display or further output blocks. So I've got an RGB light here. You can also get an LED display as part of the visual kind of outputs. And then we've got all these green blocks. So these are mainly connector blocks, and you can see you've got an extension module there which you can build into the body of your robot. The main connector module here, which connects all the different hardware blocks together. We mentioned the fact that you can expand on this using Lego, so that is done by this one here. So you can see it gives you a nice Lego building plate to expand on. And then we've got different wheels which would mainly be used for the movement of the robot, but they do have lots of different functions. You can see you've got two large wheel types there and a smaller trundle type wheel here. Okay, last but not least as well, so always important to point this out, we've also got this really great separator tool. So that makes it nice and easy to separate the different blocks and take them apart before building something different. Okay, so that is our hardware that we're working with. I'm just going to switch back to our slides now. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the apps, and I'll be talking you through them on the screen first of all, but then show you those live in action. You've got three main apps to work with. I will also take a little look at all the curriculum materials you've got to work with. There's actually 80 plus hours worth of lessons, which is amazing. So there's so many different opportunities for using this again in all those different areas of curriculum, as you'll see for yourselves in a second. But let's start to take first of all a look at the apps. So the first one is the Robo Live app, and this is, as it sounds, live control of the robot with all the blocks that you're creating, again, color-coded, corresponding to those different hardware blocks which we're just looking at a second ago, again, to make it even easier to understand how we're controlling it all. You've then got the RoboCode app. So we're going through these in complexity as well. That first Robo Live app can be used really easily at early years, but it's still useful for the older kids as well. But after the Robo Live, we'll be progressing onto the RoboCode app, which is this one here. And this is using flow type coding, extremely intuitive, and enables kids to start creating true sequences of code. And you'll see that live in action in a second. And then we also now have the brand new Robo Blockly app. So this is exactly as it sounds. It's enabling the kids to code in block-based formats, similar to Scratch programming, which they might have used. This is obviously great in that it allows them to use Scratch-type program with something physical which they can bring to life, and does allow for really quite complex levels of programming, which is suitable for both primary and secondary education, which is brilliant. Okay, now we're going to start taking a little look at the classroom materials. I think it's important to properly outline exactly what you've got to help you deliver all of this in the curriculum, and there's basically 4 main aspects to the Robo Wunderkind classroom materials. You've got the core curriculum section, which, as it sounds, are the main core projects, and you will find in there all the materials like the lesson plans, lesson slides, worksheets, everything again that you need to use all of this and deliver these specific lessons in the classroom. You've then got the impact evaluation system, which is again brilliant for helping you, as it sounds, to track and evaluate the students' progress through all of the activities they're carrying out. You've then got additional topics which help you to take into those different areas of the curriculum. So as well as being great for computing, you can see you've got all sorts of different topics that are great for maths, arts, animals, storytelling. There's lots of different opportunities. And you've also got the after school activities, which are even more value for helping you take it into things like STEM clubs or robotics clubs or summer schools, whatever it might be that you have going on in your school or wherever you're using these kits. Okay, so we'll take a little bit of a closer look at these as well. So what I do stress, everything I'm talking through now, this is all available freely to download from the website. So I'd encourage everyone to go and take a look at that in more detail and explore all of this. But we'll give you a few of the important things to highlight. So of course, you've got the main resources for the teachers, which is a great support to help you start working with the Robo Wunderkind, again, with very little or no experience in teaching robotics and coding. So that's in the form of really easy to follow teacher guides on the ins and outs of the hardware and the software materials that you've got to work with, and does start to help you become confident users of the Robo Wunderkind and robotics and coding in general. It even goes to the basics of laying out all the different components, the hardware components, what they are, what they're for, and all this, the general ins and outs of things like the main block. So you've got that very basic support. And then it starts to go into the main materials that you've got to work with. So again, that's the things like the teacher's planning journal. I'll show you a more detailed example of that in a second. As well as your journal, you've got the student portfolio, so they can actually document their work as they're going along themselves. And of course, there's lots of things within that, like the worksheets, which will help them through all the different lessons as well. Taking a closer look at that teacher's planning journal, you can see some of the tools that you've got here, helping you plan out exactly who's going to be taking part in all the different classes, how many numbers you're working with, what the schedule is going to be. So it's helping you make out all the planning notes for that. You've got really handy checklists to make sure you've got everything you're going to need for all the specific lessons, and of course those progress maps. So that's just a couple of examples on some of the materials that you've got to work with. And again, for both yourself and the pupils, of course, you've got the worksheets for the kids, which correspond to the different lessons, tools which help them to even record things about their robots, actually give it a name, discuss what its hobbies are, draw sketches or put in photos of their robots that they're creating, and they can also actually map out their progress themselves. So you've got all sorts of different materials like that. This isn't fully comprehensive, everything you've got to work with. You've got even more things, even down to like motivational posters and reference documents. So there's a huge amount of support available to you in this. Again, I'd absolutely encourage everyone to download all of this from the website, and you can explore all of this in more detail for yourselves in your own time after the webinar has finished. But hopefully that's all making sense so far, and you're already starting to feel confident that it's going to be easy for you to start using this in the classroom. But let's now go on to the fun part and start to look at some of the activities you can carry out and take a look at these in action. So I'm going to show you a few different demos, making use of those different apps that I pointed out a second ago. They're going to be brief examples of some of the lessons that you can carry out. So bear in mind that when you're doing these as full lessons in the classroom or at home, you'd of course be going into a lot more detail and build up as part of these. But I just want to give you a taste of a few different ones. So I'm going to begin with this one here, Project 7, called Robo Looks Around. This is from the introductory projects within the core curriculum section. A really great activity which encompasses the use of programming within the live app, a little bit of mechanical design. And the scenario is that we want to build a robot, and we've been learning about the robot and the backstory in the lessons prior to this, but in this one, we want to start building a robot which can turn its head and start to look around to meet and communicate with other toys or friends that it sees. Okay, so I'm going to build up a little example robot first of all. So I'm going to bring back the video section so you can see this. Put this down so you can see exactly what I'm building now. And let's make that a little bit smaller actually. Okay, so what I'm going to do is they could build whatever they wanted for this. They can make use of any of the blocks as they see fit, but the main things they're going to need to use, of course, are the main orange block, which I've got on the screen here. And they're also going to need some form of motor. And again, it can be whatever motor they see fits, one of those DC motors or servo motors. I'm going to use the servo motor here. So the first thing I need to do is connect that to the main block. So I'm going to use one of those green connector blocks, pop that onto the middle of the main block, and now pop that servo motor on top of that, simple as this, okay? I'm also going to use the ultrasonic sensor on top of my motor, so that's what is going to be turning to look around. Now, at this stage, we're not actually using the ultrasonic sensor to do any sensing. It's just being used to help bring my robot to life. But the other main thing I'm going to bring in, which isn't suggested as part of it, but of course they can get creative if they want to, I'm also going to use my RGB lights here to help bring my robot to life. So I'm going to put that onto the front as well. Okay, so that's my simple robot to start, which is going to be able to start moving around and taking a look. Okay, so now I'm going to load up the first app. So I'm just going to switch to a slightly different view again, so you can see exactly what I am doing on these. So the first thing I'm bringing in is the Robo Live app, which is this one here. There we go. So I'll talk you through what we've got to work with in the app itself, and I'll come back to the robot in a second. So what I'm actually going to do first of all is turn the robot on. So you won't have seen this yet. I'm just going to turn the robot on here. We'll get a nice noise indicating that our robot has now been switched on. And you'll see straight away it has found my robot. So I can just click on the connect. So there we go. I can click on the connect there. That noise, nice noise, means that I'm now connected. You can see we've now got the view of the main block on the screen itself here, okay? So you can see you've got things like indicating how much battery you've got left. You can actually rename the different robots. That can be useful if you're using multiple robots in the classroom. You can give them all different names and label them up so they make sure they're connected to the correct robots. You can also change the volume of the robots here. So you can change the volume of the speaker if you see so fit. And I'll come on to the other ones in a second. But actually, what I didn't show before, we're connecting them on while the robot was still off. But if I actually disconnect these, you can see you get that noise to indicate a block has been disconnected. And if I pop it back on, you'll get that nice noise to indicate that has found that block has been connected, which is nice and useful as well. So then the other two main sections that we've got within this app, you can see those different icons, those three main icons at the bottom. If I click onto that middle icon here, this is our Robo Workshop section. This gives you other example builds. So even within the app, with outside the lesson plans, they could start just using these to help them build up and start to program lots of different types of robots. You can see if I click on any of these, it gives me a view of the build, which I can just move around to check exactly what I need to do, list out the components you're going to need on the left-hand side here as well. And if I was ready to start using that, I could then go to I'm ready to code. Okay, so I'm not going to be doing that now. Of course, we're looking at the one in the lesson. So I'm going to go back to the main interface. I'm going to click on this third section here, from which I can either access projects that I've already been working on or start a new project. So I'm going to do exactly that, start a new project. And you can see I've basically got this blank canvas on which I can code. So I'm going to move the video screen up to here so you can see what I'm doing a bit better. And so hopefully you can see on the right of the screen here, these are all the blocks that I can use to drag into the control interface in the middle. And they color correspond to the blocks themselves. You can see I've got this light blue one here, which corresponds to controlling the servo motor. The yellow one here, which corresponds to controlling the RGB lights. And then I've also got all these orange sound files, which I can communicate via the main orange block using that speaker that's built in, as simple as that. So if I want to start building this up, I'm simply to click and drag like so. So I'm going to start by clicking and dragging in this dial, which we can use to control the servo motor. I'm then going to click and drag in the yellow RGB light icon, so I can control the light that is emitting using this, and I can bring in different sounds. So I'm going to bring in 3 sounds, which is going to be the robot sound, the dog sound, and the chicken sound. You'll see why I'm choosing those in a second. Okay, so the reason that I have chosen those is because I'm going to get Robo to look around and try and meet these new friends of a dog and a chicken like I've got here. Okay, so these are the friends I'm going to try and get Robo to look around and meet and communicate with them. So to do this, all I need to now is hit play on my screen, which I will do now. So all I'm doing is hitting that play at the top of the screen. You can see now it's gone into a live view. And to get the servo motor to turn, I've got this blue dial here, so I can turn it to the left or to the right within a 150 degrees rotation. So I just need to click on that and start to turn it like so. And you can see that Robo has turned his head towards the chicken. So I can get the chicken to communicate and say hello by clicking on that chicken sound output icon like that. We can get the robot to talk back by using the robot sounds, saying hello, and now I can get to turn back the other way towards the dog, like so. And this time I can use that dog output sounds to say hello to the robot and get robot to say hello back again. Well, it's as simple as that. And I can just keep on playing with this as much as I want, turning the robot's head back and forth, using those different sound files. And of course, what I also brought in was the light. So I can actually turn the RGB light at the front on and off, change the color on here, which I think can be useful for just bringing our robot to life and using as part of the communication as well. But simple as that to get up and running, building a robot and controlling it using the motor, the sound, and the RGB lights straight away. So hopefully that's going to give, again, a good indication of how easy this is to start using straight away. I'm just going to stop that program there now and take us back to the slides. But again, that was just a quick snapshot of how you can use the activity to use some programming, of course, some mechanical design. We can even maybe use it to help us learn about animals in the real world, what sounds they make, and how they might interact with the robot. So there's lots of different opportunities just within that simple activity straight away. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at another activity. So this is going to be project 3 called Robo is a smart traffic light. This is taken from the cross-curricular section of the teaching materials. So this is great for, of course, learning about things like road safety, as well as encompassing their mechanical design and programming or the computer curriculum at the same time. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove our friend we were using from the last activity. I'm going to bring back the video view so you can see what I'm building. So I'm going to alter my robot first of all, and then we'll look at the different app to control this. So you can see how easy as well it is just to take this apart, taking away the different components. They snap off really easily. I'm actually going to turn off that app for a moment while I'm waiting. Again, we've got that separator tool to remove the things like the connectors. So I want to build this up in a slightly different way now. So the first thing I want to do is bring a base for my traffic lights. What I'm creating is basically a traffic light tower like you would see in the real world, but using these blocks to imitate that. So I'm going to use actually a wheel for the base of my traffic light. So again, we don't necessarily have to use these for movement. They can just be for additional bases for our robot or indeed anything else. I'm then going to use a connector module in that for my main base module to sit on top of. So I'm starting to build up the tower for my traffic light system. On top of that, I'm also going to use a extension module just to give my traffic light a little bit more height. So I can pop that on top like so. I then need my RGB light, so I can connect that into the top. So that's of course going to be one of the main aspects of my traffic light system. We've got that noise again to indicate it's connected okay. And then this time I'm going to use a sensor. So I'm going to use my red button sensor as part of my traffic light system. I'm sure you can already imagine how that's going to be useful within this. I'm going to remove those blocks away for the moment. So that straight away is my simple new build for mimicking a traffic light. And I'm also going to bring in some other things to help bring this to life. So I've now got my Lego car and my pedestrian here as well. So it's going to help bring this all to life. So the situation here is, of course, that we want to learn about and how we can use traffic lights and think about how we might need to code that for different scenarios. Okay, so we need to be able to manage the traffic and manage the pedestrians as well, and for different situations that might occur on the roads at any given part of the day. So that's the main problem we've got to find a solution to. So we're going to code that to happen. So I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of how you could start to do that within the software. So I'm going to switch again to the main view for the iPad. This time we're using the next level of code. So I'm going to switch to that now. And we are now using the RoboCode app, which looks like this. Okay, so again, I can connect to my robot via Bluetooth. So sound means I'm now connected. Again, you've got the Robo Workshop section where you've got more suggested builds straight away, which they can build in code outside of the main lesson plans. But again, we're having a go on the lesson plan, so we can go to the coding or project section here. And you can again create a new project to start coding. For the purpose of this demo, I'm actually going to use one that I put together earlier in true Blue Peter fashion. So I'm going to click on the traffic one here, and this is an example code. So now you can see this is an example of that flow type code where we're creating a sequence of icons which get the robot to do what we want it to do. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see this in more detail when the time is right. So let's just move that across there and come back to it in a second. And basically, to build this up, again, you've got your control panel of program icons at the bottom of the screen here. So this is where you find all these icons to create it together. So you can see you've got different types. First of all, we've got those orange sound blocks. The yellow ones for controlling the RGB lights to blink or have a solid light. The next one, blue, is actually motor control, but we haven't got the options for that because we haven't got any motor blocks connected to our robot at the moment. We've then got the special functions where you can use things like delay or wait for within your code. And then we've also got the trigger section. So this is where you can bring in triggers like timed triggers or, of course, input sensor triggers like we'll be using within this. And the simple way you build these up is if I wanted to add in another sound to my code, I could drag this one in like so, and I can make that an independent part of the sequence, or you can see I can also put these in with other icons to make it part of an overall sequence. Oh, let me just try it again. It's not letting me do that. Sorry, of course, because I've already got a sound file within that one. So maybe I could put it into this one here. So you can only have one sound file at a time within a particular part of the sequence. So I can put it into there, or I can bring it back out, drop it down to the bottom screen to delete. And you can see that I've got all these arrows controlling the flow of the program. You can change that by using this section of the app here. In the bottom left-hand corner, if I click onto that, I could create more flow between things like this. You can see I'm just going back and forwards with that. But if I want to delete them as well, click on the trash icon in the bottom right-hand side of the screen here, and I can delete those flow, or indeed delete any of the icons that I want to. So hopefully that's given you a good, again, indication of how you can build up and adapt the codes. You'll be able to access all of these free of charge as well, to explore these in more detail for yourselves after the webinar. So now I want to start playing this. So let's actually bring my video back so you can see this in action with the code as well. So hopefully we can all see that okay. I think we can. Let's bring my traffic light a little bit further back here. I've got my car ready to use and of course my pedestrians. So what I'm having happening in my code at the starting point here, we are having the green lights making it possible for cars to drive. They're free to drive around the roads. To help indicate that, I've also got the sound of a car horn just to help bring that to life. And what I've also got here is it flowing back from this section here, which is basically just a wait for 1 second before going back to this to again indicate the green lights on the RGB lights and the car sounds. It's going to keep on flowing, but between that all the time until it's ready for something else to happen. And how that's controlled is by using this. So that is indicating the button which is on the side of my robot here. So when a pedestrian presses the button to indicate they want to cross the road safely, it will then go on to the next part of the code, which is all of this here. Hopefully you can see what I've got happening. It's basically using the exact colors that you would see in a traffic light system anywhere. The orange amber with an alarm sound indicating to cars that they need to start thinking about stopping, and then it will go on to the red light together with another chime or bell. So the red light obviously indicating the cars need to stop, and the bell indicating to the pedestrian that it is now okay to cross the road. It's going to do that 3 times before then going back to our amber light indicating it's about to go back to the start to make the traffic light green again for cars to start moving. So hopefully that's all making sense, but let's see this in action on the video. So I'm just pressing the green to send this code to my robot, and off we go. So you can see that we've got the green light flashing, the car noise indicating that it's okay to be driving with my car like so. So it's all okay for the cars to be driving along. But at some point, we're going to have a pedestrian come along who wants to cross the road, and they will just simply need to press the button here to start the next part of the program. So I'm just going to do exactly that now. Let's press our button, gone to the orange lights. Now onto the red blinking light with the chime indicating it's okay for our person to cross the road. Now it's going to be going back to the green light, and it has done exactly that. Going back to our green light and the car noise for the cars to keep driving around again until someone presses that button again to cross the road, like so, and it's going to go back around that loop again. Simple as that. So I hope that's making sense how I create that. So I'm just going to stop the code there. So that's just one example of how you could solve that particular challenge to use a traffic light system together with cars and people and manage those different scenarios that might happen. Of course, the kids can get as creative as they want. There's not one right answer, one solution. They can come up with whatever code they think suits the scenario best. They can expand on this and have multiple codes which are useful for different times of the day. So maybe that the green light for cars stays on longer when it's busier in rush hour and the cars need more time to be getting about, or even vice versa. It might mean that we need more opportunities for the pedestrians to be able to get across the road if there's a lot of pedestrians making their way home. So there's all sorts of different ways they could change it, adapt it, and think about different scenarios which they need their traffic light system to control. But again, hopefully that's given you a good indication of how we can use this particular RoboCode app together with different projects. But we're going to have another look at this in a moment with another activity. So that was the smart traffic light system activity. Another one I want to quickly introduce you to is project 6 from the main curriculum, which is taken from the smart devices part of the curriculum materials, which is encouraging the kids to think about how they can use and control smart devices of the future, which they may well be helping to develop in their future careers. And this one is focused on trying to create a smart vacuum cleaner. Okay, so you might be aware of things in the real world like the Roomba vacuum cleaners, which means we don't have to do any work ourselves in terms of pushing the vacuum. We just set it off and let it do its thing out in the room that we want to be vacuumed. Of course, there's lots of motors and sensors that are need to be involved in things like that to make it work properly. So that's what they are challenged with doing here. So they basically need to be able to program a robot which they can imagine as that smart vacuum cleaner, but can avoid obstacles whilst moving around performing that vacuuming task. So they need to come up with a robotic solution to do exactly that. And again, they could go different ways to create this. I'm going to show you one similar to the scenario we've got on the lesson plan example here. So yeah, just to confirm, all these slides I'm using at the moment, these are beginnings of the lesson plan which you've got access to yourself. So again, you'll have access to all of this free of charge, but it goes into a lot more detail in terms of the different stages, how long you might expect each stage to take, what of course the aims and objectives are, and you've got access to all the worksheets that go hand in hand with this as well. So always keep that in mind. I'm just giving you a quick snapshot of this, but straight away, I'm going to start disconnecting these blocks to build up something different. And I think it's a great one to show examples of movement on our robot in action as well. We're going to, of course, use the motors in a slightly different way for that in comparison to what we've seen before. So I'm now going to need 2 DC motors as part of my build. So again, I need to connect these to the main block in the middle, like so. So one on this side. Again, we're getting those noises to indicate that has connected successfully, and one more on this side. And to those, I can simply click my wheels into place like so. We just need to take the connector module off that from the last build. So that'll pop easily off. Excuse me, sorry. And now I can pop that onto my wheel like so. So now another couple of pieces I need, of course, to enable my robot to avoid those obstacles. We now need to properly use that ultrasonic sensor in action, rather than just being a way to bring the character of the robot to life. It's actually now going to be functional for us. So I can now connect that to my robot using the connector piece like so, and that is now connected on. What I also need to use is my trundle wheel, just to give my vacuum cleaner a little bit of balance, like so. I'm going to expand on this a little bit again. I always like to use the RGB light to help bring it to life, so I'm going to pop that on top of my robot, like so. That is on the screen as well. Again, so hopefully this is all making sense in terms of what I'm building up. You can imagine this as that smart vacuum cleaner. And now we're going to switch back to the programming app, and again I'm going to go back to a example project that I've created for this. So now let's go on to my vacuum project here. So you can see a slightly different code on the screen now. This time the starting point is I'm again using the RGB lights. I've got that set to green to indicate that all's okay. It's got no obstacles in front of it. It's running smoothly on the carpet. You can, within this as well, change this, as you can see, to different colors depending on what you want to indicate, or what you think is suitable for what you want to indicate. I'm going to keep it on green. This one here is brightness of that particular color, and then this one here is how long it will stay. So you can do it in duration of seconds, or it can be on unlimited, which will stay on until something different happens within the code, which is exactly what I want. I'm also using, again, a sound file here. So I brought in my robot sound file here to indicate the vacuum cleaner moving. And then the one I've got here is the control and motor block. So this is the one I brought up from this middle section here. These are the blocks you can use to control those DC motors. The one I'm using here is just getting it to move a specific, well, you can get it to move a specific distance. So again, if I move this slidable bar, you can see this is the distance it would move in centimeters, but I don't want to specify exactly how many centimeters. We just want it to keep on going forever until that ultrasonic sensor here sees something. Okay, so I'm keeping it at unlimited. Excuse me, sorry. We can then also change the power level of the motors. You can see you've got that other slidable bar here, slow to fast, 0 to 100. I'm going to keep that at about 50. Good thing to point out as well with this, the motor control, if I click on the cog icon here, I can control which motor is left, which motor is right. So you can actually test that on the robot itself. Nice, useful tool. and then we can now start to talk about the next parts of the code. So let's move the video out of the way slightly and look at these parts here. So what this I want to happen next is this, and I'll talk what's happening within this in a second, but this cannot happen until this trigger is met. So we talked about triggers being taken from this section here. So we've got those different triggers which we can bring into the code, but this specific one here is making use of that ultrasonic sensor. Okay, so you can get it to sense something less than or greater than. So hopefully you can see that icon changing as I'm pressing it, but I want to keep on moving forwards. But then when it senses something less than 15 centimeters away, I then want it to move on to this next part of the code here, okay? And what's happening in this next part of the code is, again, using a sound file, an alarm type sound to indicate that it has seen something in front of it, and then it's turning 90 degrees. So I could make that turn whatever I wanted. Again, I click on this, using that slide rule bar to do any particular degree turn. I want to keep it at a 90 degree turn, and then I can control the power on the right with that power gauge as well. And also what I'm doing again is using the RGB light to indicate that it's seen something in front of it. So I'm using a red warning light to help me do that, but you could do whatever it wants. And then of course, once it's done that, it will then flow back to the next part of the sequence to let it move on again. Okay, so that's my basic code for controlling my smart vacuum cleaners. Again, just bring up the videos. Hopefully you can just about see that in action. I'm going to send that to my robots now. So hit play. It's going, oh, so I've got my robot going the wrong way. Actually, let's go back to my code and just change it. Yeah, so I hadn't properly calibrated the motor, so I actually need to get those to go the other way. So just click that on the screen. You might not have seen that, sorry, the video in the way, but I basically just reversed which motors were which were left and right to make sure it's going the correct way. So let's try that again now. Hit play. Just now going to go forward. See something less than 15 centimeters away. Turns 90 degrees. Goes forwards. See something again and goes this way, and so on and so on, as you can see happening on the screen. It's also making use of those lights. Hopefully you can see it changing from red to green as it's going, and we've got those different sounds happening as well. Simple as that. So we'll stop that there. But that's how I have created and controlled my smart vacuum cleaner. Again, the kids can go lots of different ways, adapting the code to see how they to make it mimic that smart vacuum cleaner and how would they best see fit. Okay, but again, I hope that's given you that initial indication of how you can use that project, the smart robot vacuum cleaner. Okay, so hopefully that has all made sense. Before we start to wrap up, a couple of things I just want to point out. This was just a first indication webinar of how you can easily get up and running using Robo Wunderkind in computing and other areas of curriculum. So I hope you have enjoyed that and found it useful as an introduction to all of that. Of course, as you start to explore all those curriculum materials, we hope you go online to download and look at more detail for yourself. If you've got any questions at all, please do always keep getting in touch with us at CreativeHUT. There'll be more of these webinars coming. We'll be focusing on specific topics like how you can use this in more detail in maths or for storytelling. We'll be also looking at all of the different apps that we just basically introduced there in more detail, including that brand new Robo Blockly app. So please look out for those on our website, YouTube channel and social media. And anyone that wants to find out anything more about Robo Wunderkind, please do get in touch with us. We'll be able to talk you through any of the questions you've got on how you can make use of this in the school or at home. So please do get in touch with us on these details here. You can look out for those different webinars on our website, YouTube and social media here. And if you do happen to be using Robo Wunderkind and you want to tag us in any photos or videos of you using that, please do that. We'd love to see that as well. You've also got the link here to where you can access all of those teaching materials for free. So please do make a note of that. But again, if you're having any problems accessing that, please do get in touch. So we'll hopefully speak to you again very soon. But thanks very much again for watching, and bye for now. Thank you.